I'm Pete.
And I'm Brent.
And we're the owners of the Motor Ranch here inside the Crew Motorcycle area in Brooksville, Florida.
I came from the mud, there's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree, there's roots where I stand.
This back here is the Chinook, and it's a decommissioned Chinook helicopter that we turned into a vacation rental. So Pete and I were talking on the phone about what we were going to do with this spot back here where the Chinook is, and we were talking about putting a storage container in there. And while we were talking, he's like, "Hey, I saw this helicopter on Facebook Marketplace," and so we ended up buying a helicopter instead of a storage container.
Since we've never bought a helicopter before, one of the challenges for us was to figure out how we're going to actually move it from its previous location over to the compound here. We had to rent out a flatbed trailer, use a big Bobcat with some forks, load it up. I mean, we were definitely nervous because the move was pretty heavy duty when it was all said and done, and then bringing it down sandy dirt road to get into our compound here, we were a little bit nervous about that, but it couldn't have went they literally couldn't have gone any smoother than that.
Finally got it here and unloaded and in its spot, and then kind of one of the first things to do was to figure out what we were actually going to do with it inside. And we took inspiration from this travel trailer that we have here that we rent out as well, because it's kind of similar dimensions and was kind of laid out how we wanted this to lay out as well. It's 2 bedrooms. So then once I had the floor plan done, then the first thing to do was come in and we had some of the guys here that stripped out a bunch of the old wiring and made all the surfaces flat. And then we did some spray foam insulation in it. And then from there, kind of started on some of the designs and some of the finishes. And that's kind of where Pete came in.
All right, so once the rough construction was done on a helicopter, me and Brent sat down and we both have a pretty good vision of what we want to do when we kind of brainstorm and kind of think about design. So we ended up coming up with a couple different, layouts when it was all said and done, and coming up with some of the cool features that you see inside the helicopter now.
So it was really interesting doing the renovation on this, because everything obviously is custom. So I never renovated a helicopter before. And so there was some really unique ideas that Pete came up with for skin in the walls and some of the finishes that we were using. And so it was really interesting. It was different than, I've done millions of house renovations, and this is way different. It was interesting.
Yeah, so what we ended up doing was we were sourcing some different types of Formicas that had an airplane vibe to them. So a lot of the ceilings and the walls actually are skinned with Formica. We decided to use clear polycarbonate on some of the other sections of the walls. That way you could see through and see like the framework and the wiring and all that kind of good stuff behind the clear panels, which made, in my opinion, is one of the coolest features of the entire helicopter when it was all said and done. So I'm real glad we ended up going that route with it.
One of the things we did when we started designing this is we didn't want to use RV fixtures in this, so we decided to go with full house size fixtures. And part of the problem with that was that the bathroom wasn't small enough for a lot of that stuff. So in the kitchen we have full-size refrigerator, full-size stove, and kind of laid it out around it. But in the bathroom we had to do a kind of a wet room style European bathroom, where the room itself is waterproof and everything goes to one drain, and the sink is built in, and everything's just kind of built in and very compact. And it's cool. It's got this really cool like curvature to it that follows the fuselage of the Chinook, and it's all tiled, and it turned out really good.
So one of the other missing pieces of the puzzle of the entire helicopter was the fact that it did not have blades on it. So I mean, at the second we rolled this thing, and everyone's like, "When are you gonna put the blades on it?" So that was kind of a challenge, because we had to run 2 custom-made aluminum stanchions that go through the actual roof of the helicopter, and then we used aluminum piping and some canvas to basically mimic blades. It came out great, really came out nice, and it's finally nice to see it actually have blades on it and kind of give it more of a real effect. So what we also added is, you know, during the day, the helicopter's got a pretty cool look to it, but we also wanted to make sure that once the sun sets, you know, and gets dark out here, that it has some cool features as well. So we ended up buying some aviation style strobe lights that make it look really cool at night. There's some really cool solar lights that go around the whole entire, you know, yard area, the whole 9 yards. So at night, it really has a whole new look and it transforms to something a little bit different than it does during the day. One of the most important and sought after features of the helicopter is clearly the cockpit area. So we wanted to make it as authentic as possible and kind of have some cool features that you can interact with. You know, so we put some really nice vintage rat rod style aluminum chairs inside there. We actually have two functional steering yokes, you know, something that mimics the throttle on the helicopter. We did custom made acrylic panels that backlight. In order to turn those lights on, we actually used one of the actual switches off of the old panels in order to fire that up. You know, it really came out cool, and everybody that walks in that helicopter, that's the first place that they go to.
So there's the loading ramp of the helicopter where they brought in all the troops and all the supplies and all those things back when it was functioning. So what we did is we actually leveled that up so that it's a patio off the back bedroom. And then we had to get a custom door made to fit the opening. It was shorter and narrow, more narrow. And so we got this nice little patio, and you walk in the back door, and that's the back bedroom. And one of the things that you get greeted with is on the ceiling, there's an American flag that was there from the original Chinook. And then also, as Pete had discussed, we put these polycarbonate panels on the walls. And what you see back there is some of like the old wiring that is left, some of the old hydraulic pipes, some of the electronic stuff that they didn't strip out of it. And it's just really cool to walk in, look around, and see all the mechanical stuff that shows through in that.
All right, so another challenge that we had is the only door to get into the helicopter was from the rear porch area that Brent was mentioning earlier. And we decided that it's got to have another door to get in that's a little bit more conventional. So we did cut out the side of the fuselage and make a door which seemed fairly easy, you know, in theory, but once we cut it out and actually started doing the process, it took a lot longer. It took about a week or so to get it all right. Make sure that it's not going to leak. Make sure it didn't twist and all that, because once you cut out that framework and a lot of the stuff behind it, it did kind of twist up a little bit. So we had to straighten all that up. Now it works great, and it's another cool feature of the helicopter that you can actually touch and feel and use. So it's an actual functional piece.
So as we were doing this, we also wanted to make sure that we made it a great vacation rental as well. So not just a Chinook that's converted into something you can sleep in, but a vacation rental that had all the amenities that you would expect. So there are TVs hanging, there are 3 TVs in it. You know, there's full appliances and full refrigerator, freezer, and a stove. And then outside we did a deck that surrounds one side of it, fenced yard, a grill, lots of seating. We built a bar that kind of sits so you can overlook the rest of the property. And it's kind of out here in the middle of nowhere, so at the same time you're getting this really unique stay in a unique building, I guess, but you're also on a very unique piece of property that's kind of out in the middle of the forest, and it's a really, really cool experience.
All right, so one of the other things that was kind of challenging for me and Brent was the fact that we basically had 3 full-time workers working on this helicopter. And I mean, it's always a little nerve-wracking to make sure that what our vision is to what the finished product was gonna be like, was gonna be able to get conveyed properly. And I mean, the 3 guys that worked here just knocked it out the ballpark. I mean, now that it's completely finished, it's all trimmed out and it's looking perfect. I mean, literally I walked through that helicopter and I don't see anything that I could like pinpoint and say, hey, you know what, if we could go back in time, I wish we did this or we did that. I walked through it and there's still things that I'm literally finding in that helicopter that I haven't seen before. And this has been almost a year-long process of doing the build out, and I love that. So one of the most important aspects of this helicopter too that's really cool about it is I mean, there are other helicopters out there like that are big converted to vacation rentals, but as far as we know, this is the only self-contained helicopter that's available out there. Most helicopters are a lot smaller than the Chinook, so a lot of times they'll have a bed inside there or a sitting area inside there, but then they have an auxiliary building where they have a kitchen, bathroom, and some of the other normal creature comforts and amenities. This is all self-contained in one, meaning everything is inside that unit. So like we mentioned, it's a two bedroom, one bath, full-size kitchen, and it sleeps everybody all in one unit. So as far as we know, that's the only one that's available out there as of right now. All right, so one of the cool features too about this helicopter is the fact that it was actually an active used helicopter. I mean, this thing served in Desert Storm and in Afghanistan, and now that it's getting a little bit of social media presence, there's actually some people that have come out of the woodwork and they literally have told us that they've literally flown inside this helicopter. I mean, there was a sticker on the side window when we first ended up buying the helicopter that said that had a flaming 333 on the side, and a gentleman mentioned that he is the one who literally put that sticker on the side of the window in Afghanistan while he was deployed. I mean, it doesn't get any cooler than that.
So one of the I think one of the most unique features in this is we were trying to figure out what to do for the countertops, and we were going through whether we wanted to do stone or granite or whatever. And I have a friend of mine, Janelle, who does this really cool artwork, and it's poured acrylic and usually some like mixed media stuff in it. And so what we decided to do was take some of the parts from the Chinook, some of the original dash panel, and some bolts and some stuff that goes along with the Moto Ranch theme. And she actually embedded that into the poured acrylic. And the poured acrylic has all these colors and flecks and all this stuff in it. And then some bolts and some chains and dash panels and pictures. And it just came out really, really cool.
So if you decide to stay inside the helicopter, the one thing that's kind of nice about it too, it's not just in somebody's backyard or something. I mean, it's on a 5-acre compound in the middle of the Croom motorcycle area. So you got 2,600 acres of forestry around you where you can actually ride dirt bikes, four-wheelers, and there's other stuff to do outside the park as well. So it's situated in a cool spot to where even if you stay in the helicopter, you get a unique experience, but it's also in a unique area. Makes for a double whammy, basically. So now that we completed the helicopter, I mean, we didn't build this just for ourselves. I mean, the goal was to build this for people to stay in it, people to come enjoy it, people to come check it out. So, I mean, we're not just targeting the people that come here to the Croom motorcycle area, the guys that like to ride dirt bikes, things of that nature. We're trying to get anybody that's a veteran, anybody that had, a friend, a husband, a wife, or whatever that maybe served in the military that actually flew in a Chinook helicopter, somebody that was a helicopter pilot in general. I mean, it's hopefully going to bring in a different type of person, and they're going to come in and appreciate what we've done. It's kind of nice to see it wrap up. We'd love to have you guys come stay here because it is something that's extremely unique, and we're pretty proud of it. So there's only one thing left to do, and that's to finally wrap this thing up.
Get to the chopper.